The snow had started gently that morning, the kind of lazy flakes that melt on your coat and vanish without a trace. By afternoon, it had transformed into something else entirely, a blinding, roaring wall of white that swallowed the forest whole. The trees vanished into ghostly outlines. The trail beneath my boots was gone, erased as though it had never existed. Every sound was smothered. My own footsteps were muffled to soft crunches, my breathing loud in my ears. The wind carried no direction. It swirled and twisted, making it impossible to tell which way was forward. I turned once, twice, trying to get my bearings, but every direction looked the same, a flat, endless curtain of snow. The cold was sharp enough to bite through my jacket, finding every gap, settling deep into my bones. My fingers throbbed inside my gloves, my cheeks burned, and the scarf at my mouth was frozen stiff from my own breath. Each step felt heavier, as though the snow itself was trying to hold me in place. I told myself to keep moving. Movement means warmth. But where was I going? I had no compass, no sun, no landmarks. The forest that had been so familiar just hours before had become a blank, shifting labyrinth. The first twinges of fear began to creep in, not as a sudden jolt, but as a slow, cold drip in the back of my mind. I was alone out here. Truly alone. The kind of alone where no one knows where you are, and no one will hear if you call for help. And then, just when the wind howled loud enough to drown my thoughts, I heard something else. A sound, low, heavy, deliberate, somewhere beyond the swirling snow. I froze, heart hammering. Something was out there. At first, I thought it was just another tree trunk blurred by the storm. The snow fell so thickly that everything beyond a few yards was reduced to shifting shadows. But this shadow was moving, slow, deliberate, pushing forward against the wind. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. The white haze parted for a heartbeat, and my stomach tightened. It wasn't a tree. It wasn't a person. It was huge. The shape lowered its head, the dark outline of powerful shoulders rolling beneath a thick coat of snow-dusted fur. Even through the veil of white, I could make out the heaviness of its gait, the weight of something built for these frozen places. A bear. For a long moment, neither of us moved. My first instinct was panic. My body screamed at me to run, but my boots felt nailed to the ground. The bear's breath puffed into the cold air, slow clouds drifting away in the wind. It was close enough now that I could hear the faint crunch of snow beneath its paws, each step unhurried. It didn't charge. It didn't growl. It simply looked at me. There was no aggression in its stance, no sign that it saw me as a threat or prey. Its dark eyes were calm, almost assessing, as though weighing what I might do next. A fresh gust slammed into us, swirling snow between us like a curtain. When the white wall thinned again, the bear was turning, its massive body angling into the wind. It took a few steps, then paused, glancing back at me. It was moving away, but not entirely. Almost like it wanted me to follow. The storm hadn't let up, but the bear's massive shape cut through the snow like a ship through dark water. Its fur was dusted white, blending into the blizzard until only the movement betrayed it. I hesitated, my mind arguing with itself. Every survival instinct told me to stay put. But the other voice, the one that feared standing still more than following, whispered, "If it knows where to go, maybe it knows where safety is." I stepped forward. My boots sank deep into the drift, and cold seeped into my socks. The bear didn't react, but I could tell it was aware of me. Its ears twitched at every crunch of my footsteps, yet it neither hurried nor slowed. The tracks it left behind were huge, wide impressions in the snow, each one packed solid, the edges crisp against the chaos of the wind. I followed them like a lifeline, my eyes locked on the steady rhythm they formed. Every so often, the bear would pause and lift its head, sniffing the air as though checking the path ahead. Then it would move on, always with that same steady pace. I realized that, without meaning to, I had matched my steps to its. It felt strange, this unspoken synchronization with something that should have terrified me. The world around us was reduced to two colors, the endless white of the storm and the dark shadow of the bear. My fingers were stiff, my cheeks raw from the wind, but the longer I followed, the more a fragile thread of hope began to stitch itself into my chest. Maybe it wasn't leading me anywhere. Maybe it was just moving through its world. But right now, that was enough. The bear's path veered sharply to the right, up a slope where the wind screamed harder and the snow swirled like white smoke. My legs burned, every step a fight against the drift. I wanted to stop, to curl up and surrender to the numbness creeping in, but the dark bulk ahead never paused for long. Somehow, that steady movement kept me going. Then I saw it, a jagged wall of stone breaking through the snow, like the spine of the earth jutting upward. The bear disappeared into its shadow, slipping between two narrow slabs of rock. I stumbled after it, my breath ragged in my chest. The moment I stepped inside, the world changed. The roar of the storm dulled to a muffled hiss. The air was still bitterly cold, but no longer cutting at my skin. It was a hollow, maybe 10 feet deep, half sheltered by overhanging rock and packed snow. The bear was already there, settling its massive body in the far corner. Steam rose faintly from its fur. It didn't look at me, not with aggression, not with interest. Just an acknowledgement, like I was another creature taking shelter from the same world. I slid down the wall and sat on the frozen ground, my body shivering uncontrollably. Snow clung to my eyelashes. My gloves were soaked through, but for the first time in hours, I wasn't being buried alive in wind. The bear shifted, its weight pressing into the snow, and for a fleeting moment, its huge dark eyes met mine. There was no fear in them, no hunger. Only the kind of calm that comes from belonging entirely to this place. Outside, the storm howled on, but in here, we waited. By the time darkness settled, the storm had swallowed the world outside completely. The entrance to the hollow was now just a slit of pale light, already narrowing under a growing drift. I didn't know if it was night or just the storm blotting out the day, but the cold felt heavier, sharper, as if the snow itself carried weight. The bear hadn't moved much since we arrived. Every so often, it would lift its head and listen, the way only a wild thing can, sensing something I couldn't. I tried to mimic it, to still my shivers long enough to hear past the wind, but all I caught was the endless hiss of snow. My stomach ached with hunger. I'd lost track of how long it had been since I'd eaten. I pulled my knees tighter to my chest, trying to conserve what little warmth I had left. The bear shifted again, this time curling its massive frame until its shoulder brushed the rock. Its breath misted in slow, steady clouds. At some point, I realized I was leaning slightly toward it, not close enough to touch, but close enough to feel the faint pulse of heat radiating from its fur. It was the first warmth I'd felt since the storm began, and it seeped into me in small, stubborn increments. Hours passed. The wind shrieked, and the snow drifted higher, but the bear remained, a silent, immovable presence. My fear, that constant gnawing thing, began to loosen its grip. I didn't understand why, but I knew it wasn't going to leave. And so, beneath the low ceiling of rock, I let my eyes close for the first time since I'd lost my way. The storm could rage all it wanted. Here, in this strange truce between human and wild, I felt almost safe. When I woke, the silence was almost unsettling. The howling wind was gone, replaced by a muffled stillness that made the air feel thick. My breath curled upward in faint, frozen tendrils, and the hollow glowed faintly with light seeping through the snow-packed entrance. The bear was gone. For a moment, panic gripped me, a strange irrational fear, as though I'd been abandoned. I pushed myself up, my legs stiff from the cold, and crawled toward the light. The snow blocking the entrance had been disturbed from the outside, as if something large had pushed through. When I emerged, I had to blink against the sudden brightness. The storm had left the world unrecognizable, an endless sweep of white, the sky a pale washed-out blue. My eyes scanned the drifts, searching without thinking. That's when I saw them, paw prints. Massive, deep impressions in the fresh snow, leading away from the hollow. Something in me decided to follow. I didn't know why. Maybe I thought the bear knew the land better than I did. Maybe I just didn't want the strange companionship of the night to end. Step after step, I trudged through the drifts, my boots sinking to the ankle. The tracks curved through a shallow valley and then up toward a ridge. My breath caught when I saw what lay beyond. Below, a thin column of smoke rose from a cluster of cabins home. The paw prints stopped at the ridge's crest. I looked around, scanning the white horizon, but there was no sign of the bear. Only the wind whispering over the snow, and a feeling I couldn't quite name, gratitude maybe, or something older than that. I took one last look at the tracks, then turned toward the smoke. The storm had tried to take me, but the wild had chosen to return me.